Welcome to Chatting Shit with Ostique, the podcast series where we chat about shit with inspirational people from all walks of life. Today, we are joined by the wonderful and inspiring Georgia Swanson. We hope you enjoy this conversation. Georgia, welcome to Chatting Shit with Ostique.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. I'm really excited to chat to you today. We're going to be talking about dating and self-worth, as well as lots of other things I can imagine. So really looking forward to this.
Yeah, me too.
So before we begin and kind of delve into everything, could you talk a little bit about your journey with IBD and how you actually came to have your stoma?
Yeah, mine was quite like a quick surgery and like stoma bag, to be quite fair. Now looking back, I had a lot of symptoms, but I got told from like about 2 years that I just had an eating disorder. I was very funny with foods. I had really bad periods, so they put it down to gay blood periods, and it was kind of like, I always say about sounding sexist, it was very like, you're a woman, so you're expected to have bloating, you're expected to have pain, it was like kind of like, I expect this because you're a woman, so I don't know why you feel like it's different. And then it wasn't until in December, I just was like, I'd wake up and like walk to the toilet, I'd have really bad dizzy spells, I wouldn't be able to eat. When I was eating, I was being sick. I was getting really bad bloating, and then on Christmas, I just kept falling asleep. Like, went to my grandma's and I just kept falling asleep. I couldn't eat, and when I was eating, like I felt sick all the time, and I got really bad ulcers in my mouth, and that was the main thing that like clicked, because when I googled it, every time I mentioned ulcers and to do with stomach, it was like Crohn's and colitis. And then it wasn't until Boxing Day, I just collapsed at my mum's. And I had loads of fluid come out of me. I got rushed to Hull Royal, and there was like, yeah, this is bad. Like, my stomach was really extended. Unfortunately, I had a really bad doctor who was like, yeah, well, I just think you've got constipation and diarrhea. I think you've got like a bug kind of thing. Your stomach's extended just because of your bloating. Because you're so skinny, you see it as a big bloat, but it's not a big bloat to us. And then luckily, Mr. Hartley, who was my surgeon consultant, he walked in and went, I've just looked at your scan, your bowel's going to blow, you've got 24 hours, we need to get you into emergency surgery tomorrow at Castle Hill. And I got told this at about 8 p.m. By 11 p.m, I was in an ambulance on the way to Castle Hill and told my surgery would be at 8 o'clock in the morning for a stoma bag.
Oh my goodness, that's a lot to take. So you had basically like 12 hours.
Yeah. Like, it's weird because my mum works on a bowel ward, but obviously you don't really speak about that when you're at a dinner table. Like, when we used to sit down to eat for tea, you won't really something that my mum was like, yeah, I'll just tell you about the bowel ward because that's the perfect thing to speak about. So when I told her, she was like, wow, like, okay, I know about it. So I felt confident as in, oh, I've got somebody there that knows about this, so I've got that second-hand thing. But I always say the thing before it was very much like someone came in the room, it was a leaflet that was two-sided, that had just the basic information of this is what a stoma is and this is what it looks like. Someone came in, drawn a dot on my stomach, and I was told to drink 46 to try and get my weight up because I was really underweight. I'd gone down to like 6 stone. And then there was like, yeah, you'll have your surgery in the morning. I got woke up at 7:30, gown and everything on, and then rushed straight into emergency surgery at 8.
So I just want to dive a little bit more into the eating disorder and also period comments. So I've heard this from quite a few different women, and I think it's important just to kind of highlight that this can happen and that actually kind of don't let your symptoms get dismissed and just put down to being a woman. What's your relationship been like with food, and how did that impact your diagnosis?
Weirdly, I was always like, especially like Sunday dinners and things like that, it was like bigger portion, great. And yeah, I was funny with foods. And I knew like pains, like I used to put it down to pains. But then when I used to explain to people I had pains when I was eating, it was like, but why would you have pains when you're eating? Are you just eating something you don't like? And then it was like noticing like vegetables, all of a sudden I'd have really bad pain with vegetables, or if I was eating salads and stuff and it was like fruits. And obviously in your head you think, well, these are healthy stuff, like why is this affecting me more? And then like I say, when I went to the doctors, I'd already been told that I had an eating disorder anyways, because I did go through a period of time where I was being sick a lot, and like I didn't want to eat and stuff, and I'd gone like binges and then not eating stuff. So in my head, I think I thought myself like, oh no, it's me that's caused this eating disorder. And then it wasn't until I actually spoke to my consultant, Mr. Hartley, and he said, no, you've got an eating disorder because of crud. You've then caused yourself to have an eating disorder because your brain's gone, well, hang on a minute, I don't want this. So when you put it in me, I'm just going to throw it back up because that's the only way I know how to get rid of it.
That's really interesting that that was actually the opposite way around to what you had been led to
Yeah.
believe.
Again, for years, it was even like in the first like 2 years and stuff, I was like, it's still me, maybe I'm still being really funny, maybe I've caused because I've been sick so many times, or I've done, and it's very like you put it on yourself for a long time thinking, is there anything I could have done that could have changed it, or is it something in my like personality or lifestyle, like have I done something there?
So how old were you when you had your stoma surgery, and how immediate was the kind of impact on how you were feeling?
I was 18, but I got it a month before my 19th birthday. So I did the 10th of January, and I was meant to I turned 19 on the 5th of February, so it literally was like just under a month. But it was very weird to
Yeah.
me, because at first I was just grateful because I'd been told all these promises of, oh, like you won't have pains when you eat anymore, you'll be able to eat what you want, you can do this. When I come out of surgery, I just cried to my mum and I was like, oh my God, I'm better now. Oh my God, everything's going to change now. And then I will admit, like, over the next couple of days, it was then like, now that kind of feeling has gone of like, I appreciate it because it's kept me alive, like it saved my life, and I could have been blown in like 24 hours. Then it kind of came into the doubting thing of like, hang on a
Yeah.
minute, I've got to get used to a life now of like with a stoma bag. Like, actually, I don't know if I'm ready for this kind of. And then it was like self-doubting, like, can I do this? Could I actually be the one to do this? And obviously, you feel quite alert. And I was on a stoma ward, but to me, it still felt like I was the only person on that ward that had a stoma.
I absolutely understand why it would feel that way. And I know that many people, when they have their surgery, feel that way. It's also very
Yeah.
hard to find other ostomates who are at the same age or background or
Yeah.
reason for surgery as you've had. So how was there anywhere that you turned to find like useful information or feel less alone at that time?
I always say, and I think unfortunately for me, because I was so young, and I always say to people, I was still finding myself at this point, like at 18, 19 and stuff, you're very much still finding your style, finding like knowing your worth, like understanding you as a person, never mind understanding something that you don't even understand yourself. And for me, on the ward, it was very elderly. And so to me in my head, I was like, oh my God, there's only elderly people getting this, and there'd been like such a stigma around, oh, you're meant to be old, and that's the only person that has like a colostomy bag. So at first I was very much like,
Yeah.
oh, I don't want to talk to anybody about it, because if I talk about it, then it means I've accepted it. And it was like a weird thing of, do I need to accept it? Because I'd been told it was only for 6 months. In my head, it was very much like, yeah, I don't have to get used to this. This is fine. I don't have to talk about it. And there was one group, and that was on Facebook, and it was for ostomies, IBD, ileostomies. So it was a big group like Crohn's and colitis. But it was just like there was hardly anything on there. It was just people saying, yeah, I've got diagnosed with Crohn's. Does anybody know about it? And it was like, right, well, I don't even know about it. And like I say to people, when you go on Google, there's just nothing. And like Instagram was still very new. Like I didn't really do Instagram. I did it for like maybe putting like a selfie up, or if I'd done something with my friends, but wasn't really like, oh yeah, this is a big social media thing now. Like Facebook was still very trending then. And I think for the age,
Yeah.
I didn't accept it. So it was very hard to then be like, okay, well, and like my friends, unfortunately, I had a group of friends and I lost my friends because of it, because they wouldn't accept for what I was going through, and like they'd make like just like comments. And like I always say to people, like one of my best friends I'd known for maybe like 6 years, had turned around to me and was like, I don't know how you're dealing with that, I killed myself already. And that was the first thing that she said. Yeah, that was the first comment to me. I texted her and told her what had happened and said, emergency surgery's happened, this has happened. And that was her reply straight away. So then
I
I
am
kind of put my
so
feelings
sorry.
out.
That's unacceptable from anybody in your life, let alone a friend. And
100%.
I'm really sorry that you had that response from somebody.
Thank you.
How did
But
that
that's what I think
feel?
that's what I was like. 'Cause it was like, whoa, like. But then I think that triggered me because these were meant to be my friends, and they all was very much like, so you aren't going to come out with us around town and stuff, then are you really? Because like you're not going to tell a lad that you've got it and stuff like that, and like, what about if you have a leak and stuff? And like was just getting in my head. So then in my head for easy enough about a year, I was like, well, if my friends can't accept this, how the hell am I meant to be moving on with my life after this?
I want to get into talking about how you would tell a potential partner what this is like and etc. and dating. Before we do, you did mention that at the time you thought you would have a reversal in 6 months.
Yeah.
What
Yeah,
then transpired?
I got told that I had half my colon taken out, and I think it was most of my large bowel was taken out. And he was like, unfortunately, you've had Crohn's in one side, colitis in the other side, and now unfortunately you've got birth now, unfortunately. So that was like a big hit as well, because then he explained like you're gonna have flares with colitis, you're gonna have flares with Crohn's, like that could happen in the same time. Um, and then I got really, really poor. Like for the first 2 years, I was just in hospital. We worked it out where I'd been at home for like 3 months, but like, as in, like, I'd come home for maybe a week and I'd be straight back in hospital. I couldn't take fluids. I was really dehydrated. My weight was really, really down. I couldn't get past 7 stone. Then I dropped straight back to 6 stone. And then that's when he came to me and he was like, I think we're gonna keep it on for a little bit longer, and then a little bit longer turned into 2 years, another 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And are you likely to have a reversal at any point, or will you keep your
No, so
stoma
I
bag?
had a reversal. I think it'll be 3 years this year. Um, was all planned. Was good. I was at the right weight. Like the doctor come to me and said, my consultant, Mr. Hartley, and I always say I can't vouch for anybody else like I do him. Like he said, I'll stick with you. I'll be your consultant on your surgeon. I'd gone to him saying that I felt really cautious about my body, and he was the only surgeon that would do it for me. And he was like, "You're great. You've got your weight up. We're really looking forward to." I had a party the night before. I got my friends round. We let off balloons saying like goodbye to my stoma. Came out of surgery and I was just so tired. And then the next day, my stomach was just swelling and swelling and swelling to the point where I just looked about 3, 4 months pregnant. In the end, I couldn't walk because my ankles were so swollen as well. And then one night I
Oh,
just woke up and I just screamed. And normally with pain, I'm quite like, oh, I'm in a hospital, like other people are in pain, like kind of like keep it to myself. And I couldn't. I just was screaming and holding my stomach. I went for a CT scan and then he said to me, "You've got sepsis in like 3 places. It's just your body just not having it." So it was like, it's up to you. But I text my mum saying, "I can't do this, mum. I don't know what it is, but this is not normal to me. Like, this is not what I wanted out of life. This is not where I wanted to be." And then as I sent the text, she walked through 5 minutes later with my consultant and she went, "We already knew," like, and then they both sat me down and he said, "I'm so sorry, I've tried everything, but this is not going to work. You have to go permanent if that's what you want to do." And I said, "Do it. When can you fit me next in?"
oh my God, what an ordeal for you to have had to go through at such a young age. So then the
And
stoma
sepsis
was
was like
made
quite a big
permanent.
thing. Sepsis was
Sorry,
quite a
go
big
on.
thing. That was the unfortunate thing, I think, as well, because I'd have like sepsis like 7 times. Like I'd been pronounced like dead like 7 times. Like I'd gone through the ordeal of like my body just didn't accept having all these. And I'd gone through 32 surgeries I've had now, like, and it was meant to be, oh, you have one
Oh,
for your stoma to put on, one for your reversal, and that was meant to be it. And then I ended up having 30 plus surgeries. So I think when he said I had sepsis in 3 different places, I knew when I just thought my body, I can't put my body through it for my own selfish reasons of just not having a bag. And I always say to people, I took one photo of my stomach without a bag, and I don't look at it because I just think I can't, because it's not normal to me. It doesn't look like my stomach. I feel like it's not even me that's took the photo.
when you knew that it was going to be made permanent and you woke up and you had your permanent stoma bag, how did you feel about it? Was there a sense of almost relief that the kind of you weren't going to go through,
Yeah.
hopefully,
I
more
always
and
say
more and more
it was a very
surgeries?
mixed feeling. It was very much like, oh my God, like, thank God, because I knew that routine. Like, it was weird to be like, oh my God, I've only known this for, I think it was about 4 years at the time, but yeah, it felt like I'd had it for all my life. And then there was obviously like the setting afterwards, it was like guilt, and I questioned myself a lot of like, did I come in at the right time? Did I rush my reversal? Should I just left it? And like I went to the consultant about 5 times. I was like, so it's definitely not reversible now though. Like once now it's made permanent, like I can't go back now though, can I? And I was just torturing myself for weeks. And then in the end I just thought, if it saved my life once, it can save my life again. Because if I would have kept it and my sepsis got
Yeah.
bad, I wouldn't have been able to tell the story. So at least I've got a bag and I can tell the story.
100%. In terms of dating, I know you've already kind of touched upon this a little bit, but obviously you were a young woman in the prime of your life, you're going to want to go out and date and meet people and have fun.
Yeah.
Were you single at the time you had your surgery, first or last one? And if not, we'll chat about what dating's like.
My first one, I was like seeing somebody. It was good at the time. Like when I went into hospital to come and see me, he was really understanding of the fact that I was like, look, like this is saving my life, and he was very much like, yeah, it's saving your life. Like we'll just take it on. And we never really, like looking back, we never really sat down there and had a conversation of like, this is what life's gonna be like now. Like this is what we do. This is what I'm gonna have to live like. And then we moved in together. And then he just changed, and then he turned into, it was just a very awful, abusive boyfriend in the end. And I stayed with him for like 2 years. And like, when we split up, he was like, no one's going to ever love you. No, it was really hard to love you with a colostomy bag. Like, you don't understand how hard it is to be with someone that's drained all the time and don't want to leave the house. Like, but because he was very abusive anyways, like he was very physically and emotionally abusive, it kind of like then put my doubt of, oh, well, if he can treat me like this and I've got a bag, then this is the normality of what I should be treated like. So I think that didn't help either. The fact that I was in an abusive relationship straight after then getting a bag, it was like, oh, okay, is this what I'm now expected to just have all the time?
I can completely see how that would send your mind there, but that is absolutely not how you should be treated at any time in your life, bag or not.
Yeah.
So you split up with this person, which sounds like the best thing that could have ever happened to you.
Yeah.
And then you're single. So when did you start dating?
So I stayed single for about 2 years. I like my own company. I'm like one of them people that like, I love my own company, but then when I want your company, I need you 100% being there. I need to be needy. I will be the neediest person you've ever met. So I think because I've been in an abusive relationship, it was very much like, I've gone through very much of like suicidal thoughts in the relationship. I've gone through very much like, should I be here, and be like, am I worth being here? So I think it took 2 years for my mind to be like, okay, we don't need somebody to tell us our worth. We need to figure out our worth first. So it took me a long time to like even process of like meeting new friends or opening up to people or like a lad. So I very much stayed single. I had like bits of relationships where it was like I was with him for like maybe like 3 months, 2 months, and then realised I don't really want this. And then I had a full year where I was just single.
You split up with this very abusive partner, which sounds like the best thing that could have ever happened. And then you're back on the dating scene as a young woman. What was that like, and how did you tell a potential partner that you had had stoma surgery?
So afterwards, I took time for myself. Especially I think like going through such an abusive relationship, and I think for me as well, I got into a very dark place. Like when I was in the relationship, it was very much like, should I even be on the earth? Like, should I be here? Like, is this what I'm gonna have to live with for the rest of my life? And like doubted myself a lot. And then I kind of like come out of that and was like, that's it now. Like, I'm just going to do my own thing. Like, I clearly need to do my own thing first. And then I got into a small relationship for about 3 months. And it wasn't even a conversation between us. I'd put it on Facebook, a couple of things of like my stoma, but not really like gone into detail. And then it wasn't until I'd gone to his mum's house, and about a week later I'd gone back, and then his mum approached me and was like, he's told me that you've got a stoma. Is anything you need, like certain dietary needs? Like, do we need to know how to change it? Do we need to know this, and this? And and I always say she was amazing. She was amazing. Like, she really like got in touch, and like she used to text me and be like, oh, we're having this fatigue. Do I need to do it any different for you? And like, even when I used to feel like drained, she'd be like, right, snack drawer, there's your snacks and stuff like that. So it was
That's so kind.
yeah, so she really made me believe in like the fact of like it's actually not this massive deal, and like it don't put a burden on people. And he was really good about it. He like made me feel no different. And the only reason we split up was because we just generally wanted in the same place with each other as like where we wanted to go in life. And I think I very
Mm.
much got in a relationship, but in my head I knew I'd not really figured out what I actually wanted yet, and I didn't really know whether I was ready to be committed to somebody or I wanted to be on
Mm.
my own and like try that on my own because I'd not been like single for like a long time. And then we kind of split up, and then I stayed single for about a year. I'd spoke to people, but I'd not really like. I always say like when I speak to people, I'm like if I get a sense of like okay, this could go somewhere. I think that's what gives me the thing to like okay, maybe the conversation needs to start. But then I didn't have to because then really weirdly, my best friend of 15 years just messaged me on Instagram. I'd not spoke to for about a year because he'd been in a relationship. And he's like, "Hi, how are you doing?" and everything. And I was like, "Great." And he was like, "I know it's late, but do you fancy me popping around for a cup of tea and coming to see you?" And I was like, "Yeah, sounds great." And then he just didn't leave. And then we ended up staying together for 3 years.
Oh, that's so nice. Are
Yeah.
you still together now?
No. I ended the relationship in August last year. So that
And
was like a thing as well. I think because I'd gone from that, and then someone that already understood, like I'd known him for 15 years, so he knew everything that had happened. But he was really good about it. Like when I had my reversal, he was there. When I had my Barbie bum surgery, I was with him as well. So
mm,
he was really good, and he was really positive on the fact of like this does not take anything away from you. Like you are still as powerful as you ever will think and stuff. And as a best friend, he was great. And I always say that to people: as a best friend, he was great, but as a boyfriend, unfortunately, we just fell out of love towards the end, and it just didn't work out.
and so since August, maybe sort of like 6 months-ish ago, how has that time been? Have you been on any sort of first dates? Have you had to have a conversation with somebody new? Because I think we've all been in relationship. Well, a lot of people have been in relationships with people that started as best friends, and you have that comfort
Yeah.
and you can talk from a place of kind of vulnerability quite
Yeah,
quickly.
absolutely, yeah.
Whereas I suppose if you're kind of meeting someone on an app, it's a very different way
Yeah,
in.
yeah. And I always say to people as well, I always say to people when it's your best friend, I think in my head it was like I didn't feel embarrassed about the stoma because in my head I thought, oh my God, but you've known me when I went through like my geek stage. You knew me when I didn't wear no makeup on. Do you know what I mean? You knew when I didn't have no style. So to me, the bag was like the most littlest thing ever that I could add to it. It was very much like even like leaks. Like I'd have leaks and I'd be like, okay, I've had a leak, like can you get out of the room while I get sorted and stuff like that. But to me it was like okay, well this is just like if I started my period, like that's what I always say to people as well,
Yeah,
like to me when you leak it's just like a period. I can't control it just like someone can't control a period.
absolutely.
So I kind of came out of that, but because I think I ended it, I was very much mentally off it. Like, I should have ended it like 3 months probably beforehand because I was mentally very much out of the relationship. Um, and then I always say I did the awkward thing. And then I started speaking to a boy and he became my best friend. But this was when I was in the relationship, like we've just got a friendship going and he had IBD. So he was like, oh, like I understand where you're coming from. So I think the comfort was there, definitely. Of,
Yeah,
you have IBD, you understand me, you've seen my Instagram. And then we kind of dated for a little bit and it was like long distance and then it just didn't work for both of us, like doing long distance kind of thing. Like he's very much doing his own thing and I was very much ready to be like, okay, I'm going to take control of my life now. Like I've just been in a relationship. I've never done single life since I've been 18. Like that's
mm,
mad. So we're still best friends to this day. We went from dating to best mates and just like same respect for each other, made sure like that didn't change anything about us. And then the only online dating I've been on one date, and that was on Hinge. And I'd spoke to
yeah,
him for a couple of weeks, and nothing had been really said about my bag. And I sent him a text that night saying, "Just want to be really honest with you. I've got a stoma. It's called an ileostomy." And then just put to him, "If you want to Google it first or ask me questions, that's fine." He then ghosted me for 2 days, and then texted putting, "No, I'm sorry, this is too much for me to deal with." So that was my first big, oh wow, okay, okay. So that was the first time I told somebody. It's the first time I'd ever like told somebody out of my circle.
and how did you feel after that
Oh, I
experience?
cried. I admit to everyone I was so depressed. I just stayed in my bed and cried all the time. My worth was gone. I just contemplated everything about whether I'd done it at the right time, whether I'd moved too fast, and I felt like I'd been like dating myself, and I was like, wow, I'd sleep with somebody if I hadn't told him it yet and stuff like that's just wrong. Like, why have I done that? And then in my head, I kind of was like, well, no, because if I didn't have one, no one would say anything. But because I have a stoma and I should have told him, then it kind of came a thing of, yeah, but you should have told him before you slept together. And then my thing was, but if he didn't see it during sex and then he didn't question it, and then he said it was too much. To me, it was like, okay, well, it was always going to be too much, whether he told him before or after.
I absolutely agree with you. I think someone's reaction to any part of you, stoma, anything, whatever it is on them.
Yeah.
It's not on you.
Yeah.
There is absolutely, you did nothing wrong in that situation. And there's always going to be people who say not nice things in life or who are ignorant to what things really are. And that's not a reflection of what you have to offer the world at all.
Absolutely. And I always say to people as well, like, sometimes you've got to take a back seat as well. Like, at first I was like, oh my God, like, what an idiot, what a dick, I can't believe he's treating me like that. So and then when I calmed down, it was kind of like, okay, the way he said it wasn't very nice, but for him to think it's too much, that's okay, that's understandable. If he thinks that it's too much for him to deal with, then I'm not the right person. And thank God I didn't get too involved to the point where I got my feelings hurt and I was really like done by it. And I always say to people, don't think someone is a dick or don't think they're being horrible because they can't accept it, because the right person won't even make you think second guess it. But I think sometimes, like the age, like he was 28 and I was like, how at 28 do you think this is too much? Like, do you have to deal with it day to day? No, you don't. That's still me that has to deal with it. All you have to do is love someone. And that's what I say to people now is, don't let somebody try and tell you that your bag's too much or your health's too much, because they're not the ones that have to deal with it. You're still the one very much fighting it every day. They just have to love that person enough to make sure the bad days aren't as good. So to me, I've done all right because it would have never been able to support me through my bad days, and that's somebody I need.
You are absolutely right. All somebody has to do is love you. That's such a beautiful way of putting it. You had a very short amount of time to understand that you even had IBD, then get told you were having stoma surgery, and it all happened really quickly. For somebody, or I guess, what do you wish you had known or been told about what living with IBD is like, or what having a stoma is like, before it was already happening?
So this is the one thing I always go on about, and I say to people, I say, it's so weird because for me, physically, I've got so used to, like, say, my body will just look so different, like, when I got it taken off. For me, more, I wish someone would have said, you know what, as much as you can see it physically, this is going to affect you more mentally than it is going to be physically. Because for me, when I then started feeling, I don't want the bag, I don't like the bag, this is the reason why, and it was like, I was just having bad days with it. And I think in my head, I was like, I can't tell nobody because it saved my life. I can't do anything. And I think the one thing I always say to people now is, if you're having a bad day with it, or a good day, you need to just let it out, because the good days that you have with it, on your bad days, I always say, I've got to have bad days, because then it only makes me appreciate my good days even more. So you've got to have the balance of, if you're going to have a bad day, just remember that tomorrow might be the best day ever, but you've got to get through that day first.
Absolutely. We had a really inspirational woman called Nat Woodward, and she spoke about this as well, about how you shouldn't feel shame if you're not obsessed with your stoma every day. That's okay. There'll be days where you don't like it, just like there's days where you probably don't like your skin or your hair or your, know, whatever it might be. It's just another part of you, and you can't be expected to love it all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I'd say to people as well is, like afterwards, like I didn't do Instagram for, I think it was like 2 years until I started actually like doing my Instagram about my bag. Like I say, it was just a normal Instagram. But even when I look down it, I always say to people, it's weird because on my Snapchat was very like big back then. So Snapchat's got a lot of memories of like in hospital, but I was never one to take pictures because I was so unwell. And like my mum even says, like she's got photos of me being like, or like tubes out of me, or like feeding tubes and stuff like that. So to me, it was never a point of like, oh, I'm going to take a picture to like document this. And at that point, my mum said to me, I think you should do like a YouTube thing, or I think you should do something to like, and I was like, Mum, this is bag full of poo. Like, come on, who's going to watch this on YouTube? Like, I think there's better things to look out there, Mum. Like, and she for ages was like, nope, I think you should. I think you should go into modelling, make a massive thing of it. And I was just very much like, oh no, I'll stay in my comfort zone, thank you. Like, I'll just stay in this little section. So I always say to people as well, like, the best thing I think is going online and speaking to as many people as you like, but getting more opinions of, like I say, like, saying to someone like, I'm having a really bad day today, or I'm doing this and I'm doing this. Because that's, like I say, the mental thing, I just wish someone would have said to me, mentally, you're really going to go through it. Like, I had counselling for 4 years, and I still say to this day, like, sometimes I sit there and think, God, I think I should have a counsellor now, because I'm still going through it. But I think it is that step of, at some point, you're going to realise, and it's not timing and it's not loving yourself anymore. All of a sudden, I just one day decided, like, okay, well, I've got to make the best situation out of this, because if I don't, then no one else can see the best in it.
Georgia, thank you so much for coming on and being so open. Your advice is fantastic, and I know it's going to help so many people. We will upload this very shortly, and I'm excited for everyone to listen.
I am as well, because I will be honest, when I was talking to my friends about it as well, because it was like dating, I was like, oh, but I'm really new to it, and like I've had bad experience, and I don't want to put people off. Straight away, like I say to my friends, I was like, look, the girl that was crying in the bed, like only like 2 months ago, I don't want someone else. Do you know what I mean? I don't want someone else to be sat there thinking, do I have to question my worth again? Do I have to go through it? And that's why I said, like, as soon as I was like, what should I speak about? I knew the dating was a massive thing for me, and I thought, well, I've done this for 6 years, but only been dating very fresh. And then I think that's when you remember, like, it's the next person. I always say that about my Instagram. It's not me that's posting for me. It's me making sure the next person that reads it don't go through what I've gone through.
Yeah, I think the importance of connection, sharing stories and experiences, and making sure that other people don't feel alone. I mean, that's exactly why we started this.
I could never share too much. I used to be very like, I'd be like, TMI everybody, but I'm just going to tell you this. And now I go, yep, so this has happened. This has happened.
Yeah.
Take it or leave it. If you want to follow me, that's fine, because I probably won't notice. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing on here, and thank you also for sharing on your Instagram and continuing to help other people. It's so valuable.
No, thank you very much for having me. I've loved to talk.
My pleasure. See you soon.
See you soon. Thank you.
Bye.
Have you seen the new Ostique skins yet? Ostique skins are revolutionary ostomy pouch covers that were created to make the wearer feel confident, sexy and powerful in all of life's moments. From moments of intimacy to lounging by the pool, conquering a workout or simply heading out to lunch, skins have you covered. Even better, they're compatible with all major colostomy and ileostomy bags. Ostique skins are available in a range of colours and skin tones, and they're made from a revolutionary material that's completely waterproof, high quality, soft and comfortable. Skins are easy to use, even with reduced dexterity, and they work with both closed and drainable bags. Plus, skins are also environmentally friendly and vegan. There are 4 bundles available to buy now, and you can also purchase individual skins. Head to ostique.co.uk to find out more.